Yeah, absolutely. So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are so glad that you are here. Like Bonnie said, we have a really cool program for you guys. So I hope you're ready to think and talk and share your wisdom and your brilliance, because that is what excites us about coming together with you all. My name is Ebony Taggart. I am the Deep Canvas Manager at People's Action. Um, I'm joined here with many folks from People's Action in our network who will introduce themselves shortly. But before we go have our team do introductions, if you haven't already, please drop your pronouns, where you are located right now, the organization you're with, and why you decided to join us today. Would love to know a little bit about the folks in the room. Cool. So what is Deep Canvas? This is what we're going to be talking about today. And so as you see on the slide, the agenda for this session is that we're going to go over some of the research proving why it's effective. We're also going to talk about how to structure a deep canvas conversation, right? We're going to model a deep canvas conversation on Medicare for all, and we're going to practice those conversations with each other. And then we'll do a debrief about what works, where tensions are, questions folks have. And then finally, we'll let you know about a resource at People's Action to get you going in terms of how to take this to the next level, bring it into the work you're doing, and inform you about how you can partner with us to continue this work if you so choose. Cool. So now I'm going to have my colleagues, my team, introduce themselves, and I will pass it to Ryan. And if you can pass it to another.
Great. I'm going to be short. Hi, my name is Ryan Greenwood, he, him, his, with the People's Action National Staff Team, and work on our Care Over Cost campaign, fighting corporate insurers. We'll do a couple workshops on that through the course of the next couple of days. So I'll pass it over to Bonnie and Heather for a deeper introduction.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. My name is Bonnie Dobson. I go by she, her pronouns. I am in beautiful Mebane, North Carolina. I work for Down Home, North Carolina. I am a deep canvas manager. I live and breathe deep canvassing. Thoroughly enjoy it, know it works. I'm going to talk all about that. I have been doing this work for about 2 years, and I'm going to give you more on that too when I get to my section of the slides. But right now, I will pass to Heather.
Thanks, Bonnie. I'm Heather Stockwell, and I use she, her, and they pronouns, and I live in southwestern New Hampshire. I'm on staff at Rights and Democracy, and we're a bi-state organization in both Vermont and New Hampshire, and I'm the statewide healthcare campaign organizer. So healthcare is kind of in my blood, and I'm just so excited to be at this conference because it brings all of these different groups of people together, and we can share ideas with each other and work together better when we do this. But I'm also here because I know how the healthcare industry has impacted my life. And I know that's probably a big reason that we're all together here today. And yeah, I just believe that this is the deep canvassing is the way we are going. These deep conversations are the way we are going to get more people on our side. So am I going to turn it back to Ebony at this point, or am I going to continue here?
Yeah, take it away.
All right. Yeah, so I want to just ground us in like all of that, like continue this, like we're all here because of how the healthcare industry has impacted our lives. But we're also here because the power of the private insurance industry, they have put their enormous profits, like 17 billion for like United Health Group alone in 2021. That's 1 year, one company, that convincing people that that they haven't yet used their health insurance and they haven't seen the flaws, and that's great. but we need to try to convince them, all of us, that Medicare for All is, oops, sorry, I'm distracted by some noises at the moment. Tens of millions of people are suffering under our current healthcare system. So huge numbers of us understand that Medicare for All would be great, but there's pushback because all of the money that these healthcare companies are spending to work against us. So we know we can build power as people to overcome that money power, essentially. So it's clear, this is the key, that people say they like Medicare for All, right? We have the majority on our side, but we also have to convince them to give up that private health insurance. And that 17 million just for one company, that's one campaign against us. We have a really realistic way to go about this, I think, and we're gonna talk about that right now. I think it's back to Ebony now. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, Heather. And are you able to get the slide up? Cool, we're going to do that in a second. So we talked about our agenda. And again, we're going to be talking about decampusing in the context of healthcare for all. So decanvassing is something that our organization, People's Action, the Healthcare for All is the People's Actions, some of the work that we do among many things. We see Medicare for All as a clear plank in this fight, but it also encompasses work on racial equity in healthcare, some of which would not be solved by Medicare for All alone. Work on big pharma and medicines. Our fight through justice is global and international issues, organizing wing for COVID-19 vaccine equity around the world. And so if you can go to the next slide, please. So that was a little bit about some of the work that we do. But can I see by a raise of hands, or you can just drop it in the chat, has anybody here heard of People's Action before? So feel free to, Bonnie, thank you for raising your hand. Cool, I see so far about 6 people here, 7, it's going up. All right, cool, so we have some folks here who know a little bit about the work that we do, which is awesome. And if you haven't heard of People's Action, welcome, and we thank you so much for joining us for this. Hopefully by the end, you'll learn more about what we do and how we do it. We have organizations all over the country, from Washington to North Carolina, and we're a national economic and racial justice organization. We've been around for about 40 years, and we've organized currently on our biggest focus is winning healthcare for all, combating the war on drugs, and addressing the overdose crisis. We also have a homes guarantee to make sure that we're putting people, in quality homes. And we also are doing work climate justice to make sure that people know about the climate crisis and are putting our planet first, because that's our home. And if we don't have a home, then we're doomed. So we build the power of everyday people because of that, the people power organizations we work with coast to coast in about 30 states. We ran the first national decanvass program in history in 2020 in the general election, and then again in Georgia in partnership with our friends at the New Conversation Initiative. And we run a decanvass institute with our friends at New Conversation Initiative to train people on how to set up decanvass programs. And that goes into we go way more into depth, than the conversations that we're used to having. So we're gonna go into what that looks like momentarily. And I am going to pass it down to Bonnie.
Actually, I think this is Heather.
Oh, my apologies.
No worries.
I think you might be right. This is my part. Okay, cool. So we want to get a baseline. What about with the people in this room? What do you know about deep canvassing? What do you think it is? Where did it come from, and why it's our path forward? Can people just put in the chat? I'm going to have to open the chat here, so I apologize if that puts something on the screen. But we want to hear what you think it is, and then we'll give you sort of a baseline definition. But what do you know about it, or what do you think about it? Can people just throw some stuff in the chat, and I'll pick a few people maybe to speak about it. Deep canvassing is, I'm seeing a couple of things here. Thanks, y'all. This is awesome. Awesome. Form of good magic. I like that. I like that. Can you say more about that? Are people able to unmute themselves, or do we have the capacity to do that? Having in-depth conversations. This is getting at it. That's why I'm here to learn. That's great. Having in-depth conversations with people and listen and respond to their concerns. These are great. And talking to those who are against Medicare for All. Well, we'll get a little deeper into that, I think, in a few minutes. Having conversations, getting deeper into the issue. This is great. I think you guys are really getting at what the definition is. It's a way to structure a conversation that builds rapport with people and moves them with stories, ours and theirs. So there's a little back and forth in that conversation. So I'm sure that many people in this room are familiar with a traditional canvas. You're knocking on a door, you're making a phone call, and you're trying to identify, you're getting an idea on whether the person supports your candidate or supports your issue. And you're trying to get a yes, no, or a maybe. Canvassers get trained to use a script, and then the canvasser delivers the message. So it's a pretty one-sided transactional kind of event. You're giving information and you're asking for, sort of yes, no, or maybe. Whereas in deep canvassing, we're looking to, it's a little more complex, right? There's this surface complexity scale that we're using. We're trying to get people to rate from 1 to 10 where they stand on an issue before we start talking with them, and then again later in the conversation after we've asked some questions and shared some information or stories. So canvassers are trained in this situation to listen to the people that they're canvassing and also ask more questions. So the canvasser and the voter exchange stories and even sometimes build a relationship. Moving on. Hey, here's a sort of pictorial vision of what we're talking about. We are knocking on the door. The voter says they support abortion rights. We take the campaign purely at face value. Yes, I support a woman's right to choose, but then they get a postcard or they see an ad on TV, and it activates some sort of stigma about that issue. In this case, we're talking about abortion rights. And then they end up voting against abortion rights, even though they previously had said that they support it. So in deep canvassing, we have sort of a different methodology, if you will. The voter voices support. The campaign digs for that deeper stigma on the issue and pulls it out and talks about it, right? And then we give some more information, and we call that inoculation, which might sound a little bit medical, but it's really about processing that stigma, right? Because we all know it's there. The people that don't agree with us are working really hard and spending a lot of money to make sure that we vote against our own best interests. So once that sort of inoculation, if you will, happens, the voter is now immune or more immune to that stigma, and then they vote in favor of the issue, which in this case, again, is abortion rights. I think I'm turning it over to someone else at this slide. and it's Bonnie, right?
That is correct. That is correct. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So why do we deep canvas? Before I get into this slide, I want to tell you a little story. I got into deep canvassing by being deep canvassed, believe it or not. I pulled into my driveway one day and someone was already in my driveway and they got out of the car and they started talking to me about healthcare. And I thought, you know, this is a little odd at first, but 20 minutes later, this woman and I were friends, and she had talked to me in such a way that, you know, my opinion didn't change because I was for healthcare for all, but she talked to me in such a way that it was different than any other conversation on an issue that I had ever had, right? And I remembered that conversation. And 6 months down the road, I saw this woman in a Zoom room when I started working for down home North Carolina. Didn't put the two things together, and there she was. And I remembered her. I remembered the conversation. I remembered everything that was going on. It truly was a powerful conversation that stuck with me. And that's why we deep canvas. It's 102 times more effective than traditional presidential persuasion. I did work on the 2020 election where we were trying to defeat Trump, you know, of course, because we were trying to elect Biden. We wanted a different candidate, but it came down to Trump and Biden, and we had to go with Biden. And we made calls and did the work. And through that, we found out that it was 102 times more effective. 102 times more effective. It's huge. Not only that, but that shift in a person's thought process lasts. It has been proven to last about 9 months. So deep canvas, can you go back to the other slide real quick? I'm sorry. Right, deep canvas really works. I know it inoculates people against, it's something that Heather said in the previous slides. People remember, people have a lasting change in their opinion. Next slide, please. Here's the origin story. And this is a good one. And actually, somebody alluded to this in the chat. I was looking at the chat. So deep canvassing is 12 years of research and iteration, right? It did start with, it connects back to our work that we started with the LGBTQ folks in California. This was in 2008. They lost a ballot initiative. And by all accounts, they should have won this. All of the polls, all of the research showed that they should have won this initiative, but they lost. And so what the folks at the Leadership Lab did, and they went back into those neighborhoods to try to figure out why they lost support. And what they learned from talking with folks and what they learned out of those conversations was that their tactics for persuading voters just wasn't working. So they developed this deep canvassing methodology. And it works. It has been proven to move voters. It's been proven to be effective. And academic researchers actually studied this. They studied it during the 2020 presidential campaign. So we've been using this. People's Action has gone on to develop it even further. We used it in so many different campaigns, not just the LGBTQ rights. We did it for marriage equality, immigration rights, trans rights, abortion. It's been used in so many different ways and studied in so many different ways. And frankly, it just works, folks. It just works. Can you go to the next slide, please? So again, this is some more examples of our work. I've mentioned this before, so I won't beat this drum too much, but this was an article that appeared in the Rolling Stone after we completed the 2020 presidential election canvas. And again, we were for Bernie Sanders. However, we went with Biden, and the experiment was run by Stanford and I'm drawing a blank on the other one, but it was proven that not only did our conversations work, but they had that lasting effect. We also used it in Minnesota on public safety right after George Floyd was murdered. We took it there, and although we were trying to pass an amendment in the wake of George Floyd's murder, it did not pass, but we reached a lot of folks and we changed a lot of minds, a lot of hearts and a lot of minds. Next slide, please. Thank you. Here's some facts. And the one that I want to point out to you is right there, that 20%, because you can look at this and see that the support is pretty high, but that 20% is an example of that 2019, when we did a deep canvas on undocumented immigrants and Medicare, Medicaid, we were able to move folks 20%. 20%. It's a huge shift. Huge. Next slide, please. Here's another example, some more numbers. And in this slide, what I'd like you to pay attention to, can you go to the next slide? I don't see that. Yep, there we go. Thank you. What I'd like you to pay attention to is that 3.1. That was the vote margin that we were able to achieve during the 2020 election. That vote margin was greater than any vote margin previously recorded for deep canvas changes. Yeah, I think that's all I want to say about that one. Because next slide. 30 times greater effect. This one is a good slide too. So here, the takeaway here is we had 35,000 volunteers that sent 38 million text messages. This was a huge effort, folks. They had 280,000 conversations with voters. And as a result, we had a 48% movement just from our deep canvas conversations, just talking to folks. And we talked to full-blown Trump supporters, and we were able to move them. Next slide. And with that, I will pass it to Ebony.
Thanks, Bonnie. All right. So now we're going to get into the weeds a little bit, right? We've been talking about what deep canvas is, why it's effective, or, the impact of it. Now we're going to get a little bit into like what it actually looks like, right? Next slide, please. So we're going to talk about how to structure the deep canvas script. So the goals are, when you're delivering the script, is to build rapport. That's like the number one thing you want to be able to do. You want to build rapport. You want to understand the voter's honest opinion about the selection or issue, whatever it is that you're deep canvassing on. You really want to, because this is going to be important, and we'll talk more about a person's state, but you want to know what's holding them back, right? Like we mentioned before, when you do a traditional canvas, it's a little bit one-sided and transactional. In this situation, you really do want to know where folks are coming from and what's holding them back from becoming a supporter. And so how do you do this? You use the script. And that could include, telling a story about why you have stake in the game, and what how this Medicare for All will impact you or your family. And you have to be assertive sometimes. Don't say, do you have time to talk right now? Because give people an opportunity to tell you no. Like, people have agency. If they don't have time, they will let you know. You can just go straight in and say, hey, I'm out here talking about Medicare for All today. And I want to know what you think about it, or something along those lines, right? And if it's not a good time for them, they'll tell you. But many times what we find is that people are really actually surprised and excited that someone is asking them their opinion about something. You want to smile, tell a little bit about yourself, right? This is here, how we build rapport. Like, we find what we have in common. We make jokes, we show our humanity. It's not just about, telling facts and getting into a debate. It really is about, figuring out, how we can align with one another and what we have in common, and realizing that we all need the same things. And I mentioned this, be assertive with, I'm sorry, go back. So we have a scale that we use in a script, and it's basically on a scale of 1 to 10, do you support Medicare for All? And then you ask follow-up questions. And it's not about telling anybody really, why they're wrong. Here's a better way to think about it. It really is for you to ID where they are, right? If they're a 5, they're in the middle, they're undecided, they're mostly supportive, but they have questions, like, you want to ask follow-up questions and figure out where they're coming from. And then the biggest, huge, one of the hugest pieces about this is a non-judgmental tone. It really is about demonstrating a sense of curiosity. We're not trying to put people off. We're not trying to debate with folks. We want to understand where they're coming from, and we want to try to connect with them on a deep personal level. Next slide, please. Cool. So that was how you want to kick it off, right? So toward the middle, you want to, after you ask them, where do you stand on this issue? You want to know why, right? And you want to elicit their personal story. And in order to do that, it's really important that we're willing to share our story. We want to be vulnerable. We want to use feeling words. And sometimes people don't always recognize that they have a story. And then sometimes hearing our story prompts them to recognize that they do have a stake in the game, or, there are people in their lives that are being impacted by the issue. And so how do we want to do that? Authentically curious and listen, learn about the voter. And you want to ask 3 to 5 open-ended questions on the script. So again, it really isn't about being judgmental. It really is about trying to figure out where they're coming from and how to hone in on that, right? So you can figure out what it might take to move them. And the personal story is so huge, because again, we make decisions from emotional places. And what we want to do here is help voters process their emotional conflict. Next slide, please. And so again, your personal story, it really, in this context, will center around how might having a single payer Medicare for All system help you or your family. And you want to talk about the impact on you and the people that you care about, and give details and paint a picture and share feelings. Like, these are the things that really help people connect. And it's difficult, right? And, we don't want, one of the things that we always say when we talk about telling personal stories is that we don't want to share wounds, we want to share scars. So we're not trying to trigger people. We're not trying to traumatize anybody. We really do just want them to see it from the heart, right? So only share as much as you think will enable that to happen organically. Definitely don't need to have the, you know, sometimes people think you have to share something so traumatic, and that's not what we want to do in this conversation. Next slide, please. So the end, you want to name and process the conflicted feelings, and then you want to make your case. So in this situation, you might say, so, you know, on that scale that I was, you know, that I asked you about in the beginning, I'm a 10 on Medicare for all, and here's why, right? And then once you've built rapport, shared stories, got a sense of where they fall at on that scale, then you want to talk about, you know, like I said, why are you invested in this issue? And then get a final rating to see if they indeed have moved up or sometimes down. But, you know, usually once we can get folks to connect on a personal level, and they know you, they know a little bit about you, and they feel compelled and moved by your story, and, you know, that hope and care that naturally that we all have for one another starts to grow. Many times people will have an opportunity to see the issue from a different standpoint or thinking about it a different way. So we do want to get that number in the beginning on the scale and that number in the end to, you know, for our own personal reasons, just to see if we're being effective, but also just to document that, you know, how incredible this is as a tool, because it's how we know that the work that we're doing is impactful. So it's super important. Next slide, please. Getting a little tongue twisted, excuse me. So going back to the script structure, there's 6 steps. So you want to surface the complexity, right? On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel on this issue? Share a story. You as the canvasser and elicit the voter's story. And then you want to help voters process conflicting views. So this is where those open-ended questions will be helpful, right? Because again, we're not trying to convince them with facts, but why do you feel this way? What do you think would happen if you did this? Something along those lines. You definitely want to just keep trying to go deeper and deeper. You want to make the case, and then you want to do the scale again. So that's just like the formal official outline of what the conversation, like the progress that the conversation will go through. Next slide, please. So we're going to see a quick video of a canvasser talking to a voter about marriage equality. And so we'll play it, and then we'll come back and talk about it momentarily. I think we might be having some trouble with the sound.
If you unmute, Heather.
Okay. Still having trouble with the sound. Let's see.
Yeah, Heather, you have to go into the options and share audio.
Always, if you have trouble, you can always send me the link and I can try sharing it.
She's been with another woman for like about 20 years. Oh, wow, that's fantastic. I don't have any training.
All right, we can hear now. So we're back at the beginning.
Yeah, okay. So it seems like Jill would be real happy, right? If she can get married. They like to, especially if they're going through financial troubles. Yeah, that's and I believe that stuff. See, I get emotional. Yeah, me too.
Hold on. Sorry about the tech troubles, everyone. We're getting it together.
Hang on just a minute. Is there a double thing happening? Is that what's going on?
No, yeah, I think someone is playing it and they can hear it over their speakers. But when you click share screen, you need to click that little blue button that says share computer audio.
Folks about marriage for gay and lesbian couples. Do you remember that being on the
The sound is coming through your speakers, through your microphone on your computer, so it's breaking up a lot. If you want, you can share that link with me and I can try sharing it.
Okay.
I just want to post that link in the chat and I can pull that up.
I am not, yeah, but I don't have that link, honestly.
Yeah, just click right there.
I grabbed the video. I'm sending it to you, Anthony,
Okay,
and maybe
great.
you might be able to just play it straight from the YouTube.
Perfect.
Is that possible on your end?
Okay,
Yeah, I can do that. Thank you, Ryan.
I think I might be doing it right now.
Okay.
Is that
Yeah. Do you remember how you voted on it?
Alrighty, let's go ahead and mute you out.
Is on the side for you that's holding you back from supporting it.
Hold on a moment.
We're talking to folks about marriage for gay and lesbian couples. Do you remember that being on the ballot in 2008? Okay.
Prop 8.
Yeah. And do you remember how you voted on it?
We didn't vote.
You didn't vote. Okay. What would you say is on the side for you that's holding you back from supporting it? I'm just trying to understand better.
Basically, I kind of didn't want to get involved. I didn't want to make the wrong choice.
Yeah, sure. You want to do the right thing.
Now you're making me think about this. I happen to have a cousin who's lesbian that I love very much. Mm-hmm. And she's been with another woman for about 20 years.
Oh, wow. That's a long time.
So I don't have any prejudice towards that.
What's your cousin's name?
Her name is Jill.
Jill. Okay. So it seems like Jill would be real happy, right, if she could get married.
They'd like to, especially they're going through financial troubles.
Yeah, it's helpful.
And I believe that stuff, see, I get emotional about this.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Well, it seems like it's really hard decision.
Well, when it comes to health issues and stuff.
What? Just curious, why does it, make you feel so emotional?
Because right now they can't do things for each other.
Yeah. That's gotta be really hard. I
Sorry.
you how much you love and care for them, and for a lot of folks, it's about protecting this sort of idea of man, woman, and things like that. But for us, it's about protecting each other.
Yeah, you taught me, and I bring that stuff up, and I realized that about my cousins, as much as I love them and stuff. I don't know that I take it in internally as much.
Yeah.
That's like you're saying about voting. Why didn't I? And now, because it wasn't something that was really super personal to me.
Sure. We're going to be voting on this again in the future. What do you think would be the right thing to do?
I would vote for gays to be able to legally get married.
And why does that feel right to you?
Because I think if two people love each other, they loved each other, the ones who are couples. Yeah. And I respect that.
All right, thank you. And thanks again, everyone, for being patient as we work through the little minor glitches. Tech is great when it works, but we all know that sometimes you just gotta deal with the nonsense, but we got through it. So got a chance to see the video. And so I want to ask you all, and please feel free to come off mute. What did you like that Jackson did in that canvas? What did you notice? You can also post your reactions in the chat, of course, but if there is at least one brave soul out there who's willing to come off chat and give us their reaction, that would be great.
Jackson did a really good job of giving lots of space for this person who was having an emotional reaction to be able to express that, and was very supportive of that reaction.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. They just gave space and just wanted to relate and show compassion. Absolutely. What else did Jackson do in this conversation? What else did folks notice?
Hi.
Hi.
He tried to get some response from the voter by asking him open-ended questions so that instead of telling him what to think or something like that, he wanted to see what the voter actually thought and then go from there.
Yes, absolutely. Ask detailed questions. And, you know, sometimes you can just ask questions just to keep that rapport going, because if you noticed, he said, what's your cousin's name? That wasn't necessarily related to the story, but he wanted to show that he was listening and invested and cared. So that's also super important. Thank you, Beth. Thank you. Anyone else? Can we get one more person to come off of mute and say something that went well or something that they noticed about that conversation? I noticed that Melissa in the chat said the conversation did not seem scripted at all. The canvasser let the voter develop their thoughts and reach a conclusion aligned with their experience and values. Yes, 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 absolutely, absolutely. So that's just one quick example. Oh, was Jamie raising her hand? Yeah, Jamie, come off mute.
I was just going to say, you kind of said it, Ebony, but the combination of the empathy and the personalization and the rapport, you said move the rapport along, but also a kind of persistence, always delivered with empathy, but moving the, you know, that combination, moving the conversation forward while working with the empathy, I think is kind of the combination. It seems subtle, but, you know, asking those questions and then kind of just, and having that person really guide it or kind of lead it from behind. I think of, you know, leading the conversation from behind. Really, you want the person canvas to lead it, but you're always there. You know, you're always ready to move it forward as I guess as the person canvas allows it, or as information is revealed and their values are revealed.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so important. Thank you for naming that. One of my favorite quotes as it relates to organizing and canvassing and training and facilitating is, don't be the sage on the stage, be the guide on the side. I'm blanking on who said it, but I really like to think about it like that in order to lead my work. So yeah, we're acting as a guide, right? Like we're helping to, you know, we're not necessarily always providing folks with new information. It's really just about how do we pull out what's already there. And so thinking of ourselves as a guide is can be really powerful. Awesome. Next slide, please. Thank you so much, everyone. Good. Those comments were spot on. And this is just one example, one small example of what the conversation might look like.
Heather, you might need to start sharing again.
I think we might be moving to the conversation. No? Is that next? Or am I mixed up?
So.
Or are we going to the next? Okay. Well, yeah, I got you.
Okay. So take it away, Heather. Thank you so much, everyone.
I'm going to just get into this mode. All right. Is this my section to do, or am I just running slides? I think this is my section. All right. This is, we're going to probably breeze through this pretty quickly because we do want to get into like our role play here pretty quick. So yeah, deep sort of review. Deep canvas essential skills are telling our own story, curiosity, and listening. I feel like listening is the biggest skill we all need to learn better. And I do think it's an acquired practice skill. Yeah, so telling your own story. Why stories? Stories create a space for people to be vulnerable with us. So storytelling fundamentals, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. We all know this, but sometimes there's so many details that we get caught up in those things. But It's really good to really simplify your story into even a few simple sentences. Be really specific about who, what, when, where, and your feelings, because feelings are important. And we often think of this in a more sort of intellectual, heady way instead of an emotional way. So build your story. I want everybody to like think about this right now in this room, right? Take a couple minutes and answer some questions for yourself. Have you or someone you care about struggled with health issues or struggled to afford the care you needed or making ends meet? And how did that feel for you? How did that feel for them? So let's just reflect on that for a minute. And people, please put something in the chat. I want to hear people sharing, even though we're not in a one-to-one breakout yet or anything like that. Essential skill number 2, as I said, this is something that I think we all have to work on a little bit, is being compassionate, being curious, and listening. You know, compassion can just look like somebody saying, oh, wow, I really feel that. I hear what you're saying there. And then curiosity, like asking questions, right? Like that open-ended question that somebody mentioned earlier. And listening. Sometimes you just have to shut up and just listen to what that person's experience is, because we all have different experiences with our healthcare system in this case. So why curiosity? Well, everybody's emotions and experiences are powerful and they define our choices, but they're usually buried a few layers down, right? Like, so I think it was Ebony that mentioned, like, some people don't even realize they have a story. And I find this to be true in my organizing work all the time, and even within myself. How to be curious. Slow down. As I said, silence is your friend. Don't think about your next point. Listen for your next question, right? It's not about winning the argument. It's about asking another question to get them to say more. And then you're going to have to come up with 3 to 5 follow-up questions. So you really want to be listening intently to what they're saying, because what they are saying should help you or inform you to develop your follow-up questions. So here's the triangle or cone of conflict. When you hear a hint of story, and you have to be listening for that, you're going to say things like, can you tell me more about that? And you might want to just ask specifically, when did that happen? Like we saw in the video, what was her name? You know, what happened? How did that happen? And then next, don't assume, ask them how they felt. How did this make you feel? They might surprise you, and you know, because we don't all experience things the same way. And then, you know, why, which is really kind of the most important to get to the emotional core of their conflict. All right, I think that's the end of that. So I'm going to stop sharing. Let's see. Here we go, and get back into this big room with y'all. And I think I'm turning it over to Bonnie at this point.
You are.
Take it away.
Thank you. Folks, now I want to just take a moment to model the script for you with a volunteer that we have with us today. And I'd love for you to give a huge round of applause for Beverly. If you come off mute. Beverly, thank you for volunteering. Let's see. I can't see Beverly yet. I know she's here though.
We got Beverly off mute, and I'll just put her in the screen in a second.
Thank you. So I'm going to run through a script that we have found that is very successful. This is a script we have used all over the country, specifically here in North Carolina. We used it back in 2019. And Beverly and I are going to run through the script. She has not seen the script. And so I'm just I'll be the canvasser. Beverly is the voter community member, and we're going to run through this. Hi. Is this Beverly?
Hi. Yes, it is.
Hey, Beverly. My name is Bonnie. I'm with Down Home, North Carolina. How are you today?
I'm doing okay.
Okay. You sounded a little hesitant. Are you sure you're okay today? You doing okay?
Yeah.
Everything good?
I'm always, I have a little bit of chronic pain. So I hesitate to, to say that everything's great when I'm always, I always have something going on. So.
Okay. I understand. And I'm sorry to hear that. I really am. That's why we're calling today, actually. We're talking about healthcare. And we're talking about healthcare for all. And I wanted to kind of get your opinion on it. I mean, so many times when I find that a lot of times we don't get to talk to people one-on-one about things and just have honest conversations. And it's so important that we listen to each other and that we find out, how each other thinks and just share ideas and opinions. So that's what I kind of wanted to talk to you about. Do you mind? I'm going to go ahead and start. I'd love to ask just a few questions.
Yeah, that's fine.
Great. To start off, what I'd love to know, now, I would love for you to imagine a scale from 1 to 10, right? Where 0 is against and 10 is in favor. 5 is kind of somewhere in the middle. And I'd like for you to answer this question. Do you think you'd be in favor or against Medicare for all? So 0 is against, 10 is in favor, 5, maybe you're not sure, you haven't really given it very much thought. Would you be against or for Medicare for all? What's your number?
Oh, well, this is going to be easy for you because I'm in favor of it.
Perfect.
So my number would be way up on the top.
Okay. So would that be a 10 probably?
I think it would be a 10.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. I'm a 10 also, but I'd love to know your reasoning. You alluded to it a little bit, but I'd love to know a little bit more. Why is it important to you?
Well, because at the current time I have health care, I have health insurance, but yet I find that a lot of my energies are directed at managing that health care. Okay. That instead of actually doing the things I need to do to take care of myself, I am on the phone with the insurance companies or trying to make an appointment or listening to when I'm put on hold, when I try to make my appointments, I often hear recordings trying to sell me on healthcare. When, I get this thing about it being more of a business than a service. And, I'm paying for a service. I'm already paying for it, so they don't have to sell me on it. And I feel like I am constantly being sold. It actually makes me resentful because I really do. I value the money that I put towards my healthcare, and they're telling me that I still I need to sign up for it. And that's not what it's about. It's about me calling to get an appointment or me calling to get some answers about my chronic pain.
Yeah, it sounds like it's very frustrating, right?
Yeah, and it's been frustrating for years.
Yeah.
And after a while, you lose your trust. And that's where I had trust in the, several years ago when I had to have some operations. I felt like I was being well taken care of, but the evolution of the healthcare has gotten more and more impersonal. And I feel like if the insurance companies were taken out and there was an incentive to make a profit, then people could actually get down to the business of taking care of people and not having to sell people on healthcare. They would just be providing the healthcare.
Yes. Yeah. When you said you were a 10, I'm a 10 too. I completely agree with you. And I could totally see where that would be so frustrating and make you kind of angry, right? Because you used to be able to be treated like a human that needed some care. And now you're saying that it feels like a business and you're just another number in this system. So let me ask you this. Again, we're talking to folks about improved Medicare for all, and that would restructure healthcare to give access to more people, right? It would be publicly funded. So instead of private insurance companies taking your money and telling you how much to pay or whether you should get care, everyone would get the care they need without out-of-pocket expenses, which would be amazing, right? I think you could agree. Yes. So some people say that if we do have Medicare for all, it should include undocumented immigrants. On the same scale, so again, we're going back to that same scale. I have another question for you, where 0 is against and 10 is in favor. Should Medicare for all include undocumented immigrants? What do you think? Again, 0 against, 10 in favor, 5, you haven't given it much thought, or you just don't know.
Well, in the larger picture, again, I'm going to say a 10 because, I feel like I understand why people are hesitant to give it a 10. I understand that because, all of a sudden it introduced that same thing that's going on is like a competition. And that's not what we want here, is competition. What we want is to be effective in taking care of people's health. Mm-hmm. And I believe deep down in my heart that if you have a healthy society, healthy people, then you're going to have a healthy society, and things go from there. You can't get anything done. You can't have an effective business anywhere if people are always going to be sick or worried or, not able to focus even on their jobs because they're concerned about their, 6-month-old baby having bronchitis or something,
Yes.
But so this is off topic, but as far as the undocumented immigrants, what needs to happen is that shift of monetary, you were saying, there should, obviously we have to, I get this idea that the government will be our insurance, like overseeing the insurance piece of it. So there's going to be money. It's just, we're not going to be going through the insurance companies to fund our healthcare, right? So we're still going to be funding our healthcare.
Yes.
And so if we could do things like, if I had to pay, instead of $100 a month, I pay $150 a month, so that, or it was on a sliding scale according to my income, then, I would do that so that everyone could have health care, because those undocumented immigrants are not going to be able to go to school or get work or become productive citizens unless they're healthy. So,
thank you.
That's
perfect. That is perfect. And folks, I would like you to come off mute and give Beverly another round of applause, because that was amazing. We did not go through the whole script, but I want to talk to you a little bit about what we did do. Beverly, that was fantastic, honestly. What I will tell you, what I will tell you is that you don't always get a person when you call or you knock a door that is as forthcoming as Beverly. And that was amazing. I didn't even have to work that hard, Beverly, so I appreciate you. And it started out right away with Beverly having, I could hear the hesitancy in her voice, I guess I'm doing okay. And so that's where I did my first digging very gently. Are you sure you're doing okay? Is everything, and then we got into our questions, and Beverly was very forthcoming. But you may get a voter on the phone that doesn't give their story up. And that's when you really have to dig and you start asking those open-ended questions, and you listen for that hint of a story. We didn't have to do that with Beverly, which was, again, and Beverly came into this cold, so thank you very much. And with that, I will turn it over to, I think, Ryan.
Awesome, y'all. So we want to practice this and practice it with somebody who is not going to be as supportive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a link in the chat, and we're going to take 5 minutes to split up 2 people a person, and we're going to practice what it's like to have and share a conversation. So let me go right now. The link is in the chat. If you can just click on it, you should be able to get access through that link. And then the breakout rooms I'm going to set up now. And if folks want to click on that breakout room.
No.
Welcome back, y'all. I think we'll pass the mic to Ebony, who's going to let us know about next moves if you want to dig into deep canvassing and or organizing more, and then we'll pass the mic to Bonnie, who will lead us in the debrief.
All right, thank you so much, Ryan. So you all got a chance to see a little bit about what deep canvas looks like. I would look at this as sort of like a teaser. But there's going to be an opportunity for you to see like a full workshop, have an opportunity to practice and unpack any lingering questions at the end of this month. I just posted some information in the chat. So we're going to do a text bank. And it's going to be for people who are hurting by this tragedy that we call healthcare system. And then we're also going to do a full deep canvas workshops at the end of April. So the text one is at the 13th. And then the skills series, where you'll get to learn all the skills, the storytelling and how to overcome questions and concerns and how to build rapport. Like you'll get the full run through and opportunity to practice. I know some folks, there were some tech issues and folks didn't get a chance to practice. So if you really want to get the full version of this, please join us at the workshops listed in the chat. I'm going to post them again. And thank you all so much for being here and witnessing what deep canvassing is all about. And I'm going to pass it to Bonnie.
Thank you. Thank you, Ebony. Well, thank you all for being here. One of the things that we believe at People's Action and down home is that anything worth doing is worth evaluating. So what I'd love for you to do, I have a 3-step evaluation process, and I'd love for you to answer in chat. I'm going to put my questions in chat, and I may call on you. Let's see, here we go. Share one emotion word, any tensions people are feeling, and any inspirations that you have. So if you could share in the chat, one emotion word, any tensions you might be feeling, and any inspirations. Yeah. Oh, good. Marilyn had a good conversation with Beverly. That's awesome. Grateful. Optimism. Yeah. Yeah. Wanting more. Oh, good. Well, you'll have to join some of our phone banks, some of our text banks. It's going to be great. You will get to learn more. You'll get to practice, and then you'll get to put what you've learned into practice. So that would be amazing. Excited and anxious. Yes. Yes. My daughter calls that nervous-sided. She puts nervous and excited together, and she says nervous-sided. Let's see. Curious. Yeah. Thankful. This is great. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Not much progress. I hear that. I think you know, in an effort to pack as much as we could in, we kind of ran a little over, and I apologize for those of you that didn't get an opportunity to do more. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Susan, you want to come off mute and talk about that? Because that's a very good point.
Sure.
Yeah.
Excuse my speech. I have a tracheostomy and it's kind of hard for me to talk well. But what I did with my partner was I played out a person that I remember very well from doing some canvassing about 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And she has really stuck with me because she came from Alabama. The Black people up here in Michigan are getting all kinds of health care while they're cheating the white people out of it in Alabama. Just, you know, very, very kind of red states mentality.
Yeah.
And we actually had a fairly long conversation. I don't think I convinced her of anything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, sometimes you just feel like you're talking past, and figuring out how to engage that person was very difficult.
Yeah, I hear you. And it is. I mean, I think Heather alluded to it. It takes practice. It takes, you know, working at it. But we can get you there. You attend some of our trainings. I even have a training coming up. This may or may not interest you. I'm going to drop it in the chat, but I'm going to be doing a training on Deep Canvas. We're going to be talking a little bit about here in North Carolina. I know it's not Medicare for all, but we are trying to expand Medicaid right now. That one small step towards the bigger goal, right? And we're going to be doing some training on that. So if anybody would like to join, I put that in the chat. I want to thank everybody. We are 7 minutes over. I apologize. I want to thank you for being here today, for being so patient, for dealing with our tech issues and the shortness of time, and just say, keep coming back. We're going to have these trainings. You'll learn a lot. And this is a very valuable skill. I mean, I believe in it. I know it works. So thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And we appreciate you being here with us today.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Cool.
Bye-bye.